Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. And if you're a returning subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to make this snatched waistline maxi jumpsuit with side pockets, and I achieved this style using 3 yards of crepe fabric. So this jumpsuit has belts on the side that I tied to the back to give that snatched effect. It is also a cut together jumpsuit, meaning there is no waist joining. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. So for this tutorial, I made use of 3 yards of this beautiful crepe fabric. If you're making use of Ankara, you need up to 3.5 to 4, but crepe is the best for this type of style. And I have my other sewing materials here. So I'm going to draft on my pattern paper because the fabric is very chic, so that we can get all the measurements accurately. So I have my pattern paper here and it's not in a fold, and the wideness of this paper is 28 inches. So I'm going to come over to one side of my paper now and come in by 5 inches. So this is going to serve as the crotch extension. Remember, this is a cut together jumpsuit, and then I would connect the lines together. So we're going to draft both the front panel and the back on this pattern paper. So the full length of my jumpsuit is around 60 inches plus the folding allowance, but the length of my paper now is just 40 inches. So I'm going to extend it on my fabric when I'm cutting out. So right now, the first thing I'm going to do is to mark out a straight line at the upper part, which is going to serve as the shoulder line. So I'll be marking all the vertical measurements from this shoulder line, and the first one is from my shoulder to my bust point, my nipple point, which is 10.5 inches. The next is from my shoulder to my waistline, which is 16 inches, and then from my shoulder to my hip line is 24 inches. Go ahead to mark your own correct vertical measurements and extend the lines this way, and then label them appropriately to avoid any confusion. So after labeling, this is my shoulder line, my bust line, my waistline and my hip line. The next thing I'm going to do is to come over to the shoulder line. From that 5 inches line I mark, I'm going to take my shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches. But since it's a sleeveless jumpsuit, I'm going to take out half an inch and just mark 7.5. Still from that line, I'll go ahead to mark out the neckline. So the width of my neckline is 3.5 inches, and the depth, which is a V neckline for both the front and the back, is 7.5 inches. And now take my ruler and just go ahead to connect the points together this way. So from that 7.5 inches mark, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and then connect it to meet the neckline this way. After that, I'll go ahead to mark the armhole opening. So the armhole opening is still the same as your chest line, and to get that measurement, you're going to divide your round bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches. Mine is 8 inches minus half an inch because it's a sleeveless jumpsuit. I'm going to mark 7.5 inches and then connect the lines this way and further extend it to create the chest line. After that, the next thing I want to do is to mark the round body measurements, and on the bust line I'll mark the round bust measurements divided by 4. I'll add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance. On the waistline I'll mark the round width measurements divided by 4, 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance, and I'll do the same thing on the hip line. After marking, I'm going to use my ruler to connect all the points together this way and then extend from the bust line to the chest line. So after doing that, this is what we have. So I'm going to measure whatever I have on the hip line and just mark it on the full length of my paper. So I have about 13 inches on the hip line. I'll go ahead to mark it on the full length and just connect the points together this way. After doing that, the next thing we want to do is to mark the armhole curve. So I'm going to get the midpoint of this line, which is about 3.75 inches for me, and then I'll come in by half an inch for the front armhole curve and use my curved ruler to just create it this way. And for the back, I'll just go ahead to create it as well. So this is what we have. The next thing we want to do is to mark the crotch line. So to get your crotch line, divide your hip measurement by 4. If you're making a pant, you add 1 inch to 1.5 inches to it, depending on how fitted you want it to be. And if you're making a jumpsuit, you add 2 inches to whatever you got. So since this is a maxi jumpsuit, I'm going to be adding 3 inches to my hip measurements divided by 4. That's going to give me about 14 inches. So placing my tape rule on my waistline, I'm going to come down by 14 inches. So go ahead to divide your hip by 4 and add 3 extra inches to it, and then extend the line this way. So this is the only line we'll be extending into the 5 inches allowance because of the crotch extension. So to get the crotch extension, you're going to divide your hip measurement by 4 and then divide it by 4 again. Whatever you got, add half an inch to it because it's a maxi jumpsuit. So for mine, I got 3 inches initially, but I marked out 3.5 inches. And then I'll come to this corner and come up by 1 inch and then use my curve driller to just create a curve. This is going to be for the front crotch extension, and then I'll go ahead to extend the line all the way down. This is going to serve as the inner seam allowance to close up your pants. So for the back crotch extension, I'm going to just extend the front by 1 extra inch. So at this point, you can decide to maintain the same height, the same curve for both your front and your back panel, or you can as well come up by 1 inch again. So whatever method you decide to use, it is still going to come out well. And then go ahead to connect it, forming a curve this way. So this is for my back crotch and this is for the front. So before we cut it out, we're going to be doing a slash and spread on this pattern to create that wide leg effect on our jumpsuit. So from this 5 inches line, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2, which is 4 inches on all the lines, and then I'll connect it all the way down. So this line indicates the center of the pant where we're going to cut opened. After that, I'll go ahead to add my zipper allowance of 1 inch for the back panel. So from the neckline, I'm going to just come out by 1 inch, and from the hip, I came up by 2 inches. That is where my zipper is going to stop, and then I'll connect the points together. So we're going to be cutting out the pattern for the back first, cut on our fabric, and then modify it to cut out the front part. So guys, don't forget to join the Sew with Mediva membership program. I'll leave the link pinned in the comment section. So this is just a way that my subscribers can support my channel with a little token. Thank you. So I'll go ahead to take the back crotch first, just like I explained earlier. So this is what we have. So I'm going to cut this now on my fabric. So before I cut out of my fabric, I'm going to be slashing this line opened. So I'm going to cut it all the way to the bust point. So I'm going to spread it this way on my fabric when I want to cut. But you'll notice that the side is not relaxed, so we'll have to take out a bust dart to get the pattern to relax very well. So I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust line, and then go ahead to just extend it all the way to meet that line, and then I'll fold it in this way. So I'll fold it in this way and then use my masking tape to just hold it down. So you can see that the pattern looks more relaxed now compared to how it was looking before. So I'm going to place this on my fabric now, and this is what we have. So you're going to spread this pattern according to the amount of fabric you have. So for mine, the widest part of my spread is about 6 inches, and then I went ahead to pin it down. So remember to fold your fabric into 2 before you pin your pattern to it. My fabric is in a fold of 2 for the front panel. So I'll go ahead now to cut it out. I added half an inch to the neckline for turning over with the lining. I added half an inch to the shoulder for joining as well. And then I'll go ahead to cut the remaining part. So you're going to have 2 pieces for your front panel and 2 pieces for the back panel. And then I'll cut it all the way down. So after cutting, this is what we have. So I'm going to separate the pattern from the fabric now, and then we'll modify the pattern to cut out the front panel. So I'm going to cut out the zipper allowance, and I'll also cut out the crotch extension. I'm supposed to cut out this line all the way down. I'll still do that later. And then we also need to adjust the armhole opening. So I'm gonna head to place the front pattern on my fabric and I pinned it down. So notice that this is where the front crotch extension stops. So I'll go ahead to just cut it out this way. And then I'll also adjust the armhole area and then cut it out. So make sure to pin your pattern paper to the fabric before cutting out so that it doesn't move about. So I'll go ahead to just rip it opened on the side. So after cutting now, the wideness of the base of this jumpsuit is around 25 inches, which is very okay. So I'll take the pattern paper off now and then we'll start to join the fabrics together. So we're going to start with the front panels and I'll place them right sides facing each other. And then I'll go ahead to close up the center front all the way down to the crotch extension using half an inch. Make sure to arrange the fabrics very well and then close it up all the way down. So when I'm done with that, I'll do the same thing for the back, but I'll be leaving the zipper allowance opened. So like 1 inch above the zipper allowance, I'll go ahead to close up the crotch all the way to that point. So after closing up, this is what we have. The next thing we want to do is to cut out facing for the neckline. So I'll be using a lining as my facing. If you have enough fabric, you can use the same fabric as your facing. So I'll fold my fabric into two this way and then pin it down to the lining. So the lining is going to stop at the bust line because I want to use it to finish up both the armhole and the neckline. So just follow what I'm doing. So I'll cut out the same lining for the back panels and then I'll place it on my fabric, making sure the right sides are facing each other this way. And then I'll stitch it to the neckline all the way down using half an inch, and I'll also stitch to the armhole area all the way to the side. So when I'm done doing that, I would show you guys the next thing to do. So after stitching, this is what we have, and I went ahead to notch the seam areas opened. So I'll flip it now to the right side. So all you have to do now is to iron it so that it lays down very flat. For the back panels, I'm also going to flip it over to the right side and iron it out. So when I'm done ironing, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So after I ironed it out, this is what we have. I also fixed in my hemming gum in between the lining and the fabric so that it lays down flat. This is what the right side looks like, and these are for the back panels. You can see how neat and beautiful it looks. The next thing I want to do is to insert the fabrics for the pockets, and I have them cut out already. It is 8 inches wide and 11 inches long, so I have 4 pieces of it. So I'll get the front panel of my jumpsuit and fold it into two this way, and from the shoulder I'm going to come down by 18 inches. This is where I want my pockets to start from, and then I'll notch that marked point on both fabrics. Go ahead to notch that point on both fabrics. So after notching, I'll go ahead to open it up this way and then place the fabrics that I want to use as the pocket on it directly on that notched point, and then go ahead to stitch it down using my 1 inch seam allowance. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So this same process, you're going to repeat it on the back panels as well. So after stitching, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So guys, after I stitched down the pockets, this is what we have, and I did the same thing on the back panels. The next thing I want to do is to insert the belt to give that snatched waistline, and I'm gonna head to create my belt already. I turned over to the right side and I ironed it out, and I made sure I closed up one of the edges of the fabric. So I'll come down from my shoulder to my waistline now, which is 16 inches. That is the point where I'll be attaching my belt, and then I'll place the open side of the belt this way, making sure the right sides are facing each other, and then go ahead to pin it down. and then I'll stitch it using the same 1 inch allowance. I'll repeat the same process on the other side. Come down by 16 inches, shoulder to waistline. So be sure to work with your own correct measurements, and then I would pin the belt also to that side. After pinning, I'll then get my back panel and place it right side facing the front panel. So we want to close up the shoulder and the sides of our jumpsuit. So I'll start with the shoulder area. I'll go ahead to join it using 1/2 inch. Let me just go ahead to pin it first. So after closing up the shoulders, I'll come over to the sides. I'll arrange it very well and merge the pockets, making sure the right sides are facing each other. And then I'll go ahead to stitch it all the way down. When I get to the pocket side, I'll close up the pocket and continue to stitch it all the way down. I'll repeat the same process on the other side, and then I'll also close up the crotch area. I'll merge it this way, merge the front crotch and the back crotch together, pin it down, and then close up this side using 1/2 inch all the way down. I'll do the same thing on the other side. When I'm done doing all of that, I'll also finish the base of the jumpsuit, and then I'll show you guys. So guys, after closing up all the sides and the pockets, this is what it looks like. I also finished up the base, and I've gone ahead to pin my zipper to the back panel. So just go ahead to pin your zipper this way and then stitch it all the way up. I'll stitch the other side as well, and when I'm done doing all of that, I'll show you guys the finished product. So guys, after inserting the zipper, this is what it looks like, and I've gone ahead to close up the sides like I said earlier. So you're going to tie your belt to the back of your jumpsuit to give that snatched waistline. So this is where we'll be ending this tutorial. I hope you guys found it useful, and I hope you have learned something new. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, share to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys in my next video.